the silent drummer of Fatehpur. Opening. Fatehpur, a city where the wind carries the scent of dust and old memories. By day, its streets are filled with merchants, children, and the warm hum of life. But when night falls, the air changes. The moonlight grows pale, shadows deepen, and somewhere, in the far reaches of the old fort, a drum begins to play. No hands strike its skin. No musician stands beside it. Yet the rhythm echoes slow, deep, unyielding, like a heartbeat that belongs to something not of this world. They say, if you hear the drum 3 nights in a row, it means your soul has been marked, not for glory, not for love, but for a debt you may not even remember, a debt you must repay. This is the story of how one man heard the drummer, and why silence can sometimes be more terrifying than sound. The drums begin. The first night passed without incident, but the second was different. A faint sound woke Amir, not a scream, not the whisper of the wind, but a slow, steady thump. It came from somewhere beyond the broken houses, deep, hollow, and deliberate, like a heartbeat that didn't belong to him. Thump, pause, thump, pause. Amir sat up, his breath sharp in the cold air. The village around him slept, but his ears followed the sound, drawn like a moth to a dying flame. He stepped outside. The moon hung low, bleeding silver over the cracked earth. Every shadow seemed longer than it should be, every alley narrower. The drum beats grew louder as he approached the old square. Once, it had been a place of festivals, laughter, music. Now it was only dust and broken stalls. And in the center stood the old ceremonial drum. It was taller than a man, wrapped in cracked leather, its wood blackened by age. No one had touched it in decades. Yet, the surface trembled, as if struck by invisible hands. Amir's mouth went dry. The air around him thickened, heavy, tasting of rust and rain. The drum beat slowed until it matched the rhythm of his own heart, then stopped. Silence. And in that silence, a voice seemed to crawl into his mind. Low, rough, unforgiving. 1 beat for the living, 1 beat for the dead, and 1 beat for the debt unpaid. Amir stumbled back. The square was empty. The drum stood still. But the chill in his bones told him someone or something was keeping time. The silent drummer of Fatehpur. The next evening, the bazaar in Fatehpur felt different. Vendors whispered instead of shouting their wares. Children stayed close to their mothers, eyes darting to the far end of the street, where the narrow lane to the old fort began. Even the stray dogs avoided that path now. Ravi couldn't ignore it. The sound had returned the night before, faint, deliberate beats, echoing under the cover of darkness. Dum, dum, dum. Each strike was slower, heavier, like a heartbeat, one that didn't belong to the living. He had tried to convince himself it was just the wind rattling some forgotten drumskin. But there was no wind that night. The air had been still, thick, almost suffocating. Old Abdul, the tea seller, caught Ravi staring toward the lane. He shook his head and muttered, "Boy, don't let your curiosity drag you to that place. The fort has a hunger. Once it notices you, it doesn't let go." Ravi forced a laugh, but his hands were cold. "It's just an old ruin," he replied, though the words felt hollow. That night, unable to sleep, he sat by his small oil lamp. The silence in his room seemed too deep, too unnatural. And then faint, distant dum, dum, dum. This time the beats didn't come from far away. They were moving. Closer. Ravi's breath quickened. The sound was steady, patient, deliberate. It was as if someone was walking through the streets, searching. Then it stopped. Complete silence for 3 long seconds. And from just outside his door, one final beat. Dumb. His lamp flickered and went out. The silent drummer of Fatehpur. The next morning, Arjun's mother noticed how pale he looked. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. His lips trembled as if he had been whispering to ghosts all night. When she asked, he simply shook his head and muttered, "It was only the wind." But it wasn't, because by evening, the wind had changed. The sound of the drum returned. This time, not faint, not far, but close, very close. The beat was slower now, deliberate. Each thump resonated deep in his chest, as though the air around him had thickened, pressing in. He froze in the middle of the marketplace, ignoring the vendors' calls, ignoring the smell of roasted peanuts and fried jalebis. His eyes darted toward the northern road, the one that led to the banyan grove. And there, just at the edge of sight, a figure stood. Wrapped in the same white cloth, the head slightly tilted, one hand gripping the drum, the other motionless by its side. It didn't move, yet the drum kept playing. The rhythm felt unnatural, as if it came not from skin and wood, but from somewhere beneath the ground, like the earth itself was beating. That night, Arjun dreamed of sand. Endless, shifting sand dunes under a crimson sky. And there, half buried in the dust, lay a broken drum, its skin torn, stained dark with something far older than blood. Beside it sat the figure, motionless, its hollow eyes fixed on him. When Arjun woke, his ears still rang with that deep, suffocating thud. And in the silence of his small room, he realized the sound wasn't fading. It was still there. Inside him, the night had grown unnervingly still. Even the banyan leaves, once restless in the wind, now hung limp, as if they too were listening. Rajiv's breathing quickened. Every step deeper into the grove seemed to pull him further away from the living world. He reached the hollow where the villagers swore no grass grew. The soil here was black, not from shade, but from something that had seeped into it over decades. The twisted roots jutted from the ground like skeletal hands. And there, bound by strands of faded red cloth, was a small wooden idol, cracked and weathered, its eyes gouged out. A low hum began to rise, not from his ears, but from inside his skull. A woman's voice, soft, almost tender, whispered his name. It was the kind of voice that could lure a man to follow, even into the jaws of death. Rajiv? The syllables brushed against his mind, warm and cold, all at once. You came, just as I knew you would. He froze. The darkness before him shifted, thickened. From between the banyan's roots, a figure emerged, pale as moonlight, her long hair flowing unnaturally in the still air. Her eyes were bottomless, twin voids that seemed to drink the light from around them. She smiled, not in welcome, but in hunger. You wish to know the truth, she said. Her words were not spoken, they were inside him, echoing against the walls of his soul. But truth has a price. Rajiv's mouth was dry. His father's debts, his mother's illness, the village's whispers, they all seemed distant now, as if irrelevant. He knew deep down that if he turned away, he would never know what cursed this place. Yet, if he stepped forward, he might never return. The spirit tilted her head, studying him like prey. The banyan holds what men have taken from me. Bring it to me, and I will free you from your fate. Her hair swayed, reaching toward him like black tendrils. And for a moment, he felt the weight of countless unseen eyes watching from the shadows. Not human, not merciful. The wind returned in a sudden, violent gust, howling through the branches, carrying with it the faint sound of chains dragging through the earth. Rajiv realized then, the grove was not silent at all. It was holding its breath, waiting for him to choose. The cursed banyan of Bengal. A full moon rose above the silent village, washing the banyan tree in a pale, ghostly glow. Its long, tangled roots swayed slightly, though there was no wind. The villagers stayed inside, doors bolted, lamps dimmed. But Arjun stood alone in the open field, staring at the cursed tree. The whispers had grown louder over the past nights, No longer muffled, no longer distant, they now spoke his name, slowly, insistently. Arjun, come closer. See the truth. His hands trembled, yet his feet moved forward, as if pulled by invisible threads. Every step felt heavier, the earth beneath him strangely soft, almost breathing. A faint figure emerged from the shadows of the banyan, her form thin, draped in tattered white, hair falling like a black waterfall over her face. Her presence made the air colder than the night should allow. You shouldn't be here. Her voice was a whisper and a sigh at once. But you've come, just like he did. Arjun's heart pounded. Who are you? She tilted her head, and the moonlight revealed hollow eyes that seemed bottomless. Once, I was promised love, but betrayal fed my death, and the banyan drank my last breath. Her words carried weight, as if each syllable was soaked in grief centuries old. Arjun felt it, her pain, her rage, her need for someone to remember. But why me? He asked, his voice cracking. Because you have the same blood, she answered. The same blood as him. Before Arjun could speak, the roots of the banyan shifted, curling around his ankles. They were cold and damp, pulsing faintly, like veins carrying something far older than life. Her eyes burned into him. To break the curse, you must give what he would not, your own soul. The night deepened, shadows closing in around them. Somewhere in the dark, a low chant began, rising from the earth itself. The smell of damp soil and decay filled Arjun's lungs. And in that suffocating moment, he realized the banyan wasn't waiting for permission. It was already claiming him. The cursed banyan of Bengal. The lantern's flame trembled. Not from the wind, there was none. It was as if something unseen had exhaled. Ananya's voice was no longer just a whisper. It was everywhere. Inside my ears, behind my eyes, wrapping around my ribs like cold vines. You heard my story, she murmured. Now you must finish it. The ground beneath my feet shifted. No, it wasn't the ground. It was the roots. The banyan's roots. They pulsed, like vines, carrying something thicker than sap. From the shadows between the roots, shapes began to emerge. Dozens. No, more. Pale, hollow-eyed figures, their bodies twisted, their mouths frozen open as if they'd been screaming for years. Each step they took was silent, but the air, oh! The air screamed. They circled me, and I knew these were not strangers. These were the ones who had dared to sit under this tree before me. The forgotten. Ananya moved closer. Her form, half light, half shadow. Her hair floated as if underwater. And her eyes, they were not just black, they were depths, bottomless. I waited through monsoons and droughts, through births and funerals, through centuries. Her voice trembled not with fear, but with something older. I am bound until my story ends. I swallowed, my throat dry as ash. Then tell me, how do I end it? She smiled a slow, dreadful curve. You don't. The lantern went out, and in the dark, I felt them all, pressing closer. Hands some warm, some colder than stone brushed my skin. Somewhere, deep within the banyan's trunk, something began to knock. Once, twice, then faster, like a heartbeat that wasn't mine. The roots coiled around my ankles. The ground opened, and I understood. I wasn't hearing a heartbeat. I was hearing the tree breathe. It was hungry. The cursed banyan of Bengal. The air beneath the banyan was no longer still. It churned, like something alive. Aisha's lantern trembled in her hand, its flame bending violently to an unseen breath. She knew without needing to look up that the twisted branches above were moving, even though there was no wind. The whisper came first. Soft, almost tender. Stay with me. It was a woman's voice. And yet, layered beneath it was the low, guttural rasp of something ancient. Something that had spoken those words for centuries to countless others who had never walked away. Aisha's throat tightened, her feet rooted to the earth, as if the soil itself had swallowed them. Her mind screamed to run, but her body only swayed gently, as though lulled by the murmuring leaves. From the darkness between the roots, a pale figure began to emerge. It was a woman draped in a red sari, its fabric shredded and blackened at the edges, as if burned by fire long ago. Her hair floated unnaturally, strands writhing like they were underwater. Her face veiled, but with a faint glow behind the cloth. Then the veil shifted, and Aisha saw it. The eyes, hollow, endless, and within them, the reflection of dozens, no hundreds of other faces, all screaming silently, all trapped in some eternal night. Aisha stumbled back, gasping. But the roots beneath her feet moved coiling, tightening until she could not move at all. The voice grew louder, not a whisper anymore, a chant. Her ears rang, her vision blurred. The banyan's shadow seemed to spread, swallowing the moonlight, stretching far beyond its roots, reaching toward the village. In that moment, Aisha understood. This was not merely a cursed tree. It was a doorway, and once it opened, whatever lurked inside would not just take her, it would spill into the living world. She clenched her fists. Through the terror, she forced her voice out, ragged but defiant. "You cannot have me." The chanting stopped. The figure tilted its head, and then it smiled. The ground split beneath her. Darkness rose like water, swallowing her whole. Somewhere above, the banyan's leaves shook violently, as if laughing. And the village slept on, unaware.